Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of JK Technosoft, I, Sanjana Bhattacharya,
and I, Arunjyoti Moitra,
heartily welcome you to join us in a brief discussion encompassing the need and necessity of RPA adoption within organizations. We are calling this drive Reimaging Business Operations through RPA. Interesting, huh? So, Arun, why reimaging?
Yeah, so Sanjana, reimaging because we are asking organizations to look at all their business processes from a fresh perspective and try to cut out all sorts of inefficiencies and lags within the existing system and try to modernize operations as much as possible with the help of RPA. So what we are ideally looking at is organizations should first look at optimizing their process and then look at automating them, and we'll help them do just that.
Very well explained, Arun. So basically, we are giving our architects and our strategists a pair of fresh lenses to start realizing process execution in a better and in a more efficient manner.
Exactly.
Before we start, a couple of points for our audience, please. Kindly be on mute during the webinar to avoid any form of disruption. There shall be a Q&A session towards the end of this discussion, wherein we will be happy to answer any queries that you may have. We request you to kindly type in your queries on the chat window so that we can take it up one by one. Should we run short of time to answer them, we will definitely get back to you if you can share your email address with the marketing team or with us. Having said that, another very important point to note, this webinar is going to be recorded.
So without further ado, shall we get started?
Yes, let's go on.
Let's have a look at the agenda then.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's an agenda that we have for today's discussion. We would like to introduce you to our perspective of RPA, what is RPA to us, the JKT team, and what we aim to achieve with RPA, a high-level architecture of RPA, how it sits on top of your technology landscape and facilitates your work, an industry analysis of RPA adoption and penetration, industrial applicability and use cases. So we have kind of captured a couple of use cases that we could get our hands on. I'm sure there must be more, and it's just the way you discover processes for automation that adds on to your use case bucket. Then we would talk about the work that JKT has been doing with RPA so far. Maybe we would give them a live demonstration of...
Yeah, I think one demo is on the card, yeah.
Right, great. And finally, we would be talking about our roadmap, our futuristic roadmap, where we would like to position JKT's RPA solutions and services in this digital transformation journey.
Okay, moving on.
So automation. Automation is a concept that is not very new to the industry. So it's the way in which we conceptualize, we look, and we aim to implement automation in order to bring in efficiencies within our process executions. Here we have tried to categorize automation on the basis of the kind of data, the nature of data that it is basically working on, and the sophistication of tools used and the methodologies implemented. So here we have basic automation, which is more of a scripted kind, more of a technology-centric kind, which works best.
Which is also siloed automation, right?
Exactly. So it works best on structured data, does not have too much of capability to move around, be flexible, and interact with other systems. And as you mentioned, structured data is something that it is going to be looking at because it's not going to be doing much of decision making. Next, we come to Robotic Process Automation, or RPA, something that we are emphasizing our discussion on. So RPA over here plays a very integral role in bringing different systems, disparate technologies together.
Okay.
So it isn't getting ingrained within your technology stack. It does not need to invade in your technology stack. It sits on top of your technology landscape and facilitates the way we are using the technology to do our work. So it's kind of amalgamating the capabilities of different systems and making the process faster and more efficient. Basically working on structured data and semi-structured data.
Right.
A degree of decision making is possible with RPA. Then comes a little bit of a futuristic form of automation, which is cognitive automation. Here we are looking at intelligence from the automation. Here we are looking at handling unstructured and huge volumes of data which are unpredictable in nature.
And that is where the decision making and machine learning aspects come in, right?
Exactly so. So moving on, Arun, would you like to tell our audience of what we as JKTians think of RPA and why RPA is a must?
Yeah. So for the uninitiated, RPA is nothing but a technology which allows software bots to perform operations on machines just like a human being would. So any kind of rule-based, repetitive task which does not require any real decision-making capabilities can be performed through RPA. And as to the question of why RPA, so the answers are several. So first of all, we might look at process accuracy. So through RPA, you eliminate errors from your process. You improve the efficiency of the process. That is to say, you get a lot more done in a lot less time.
Exactly.
You streamline your processes. So as we already mentioned, right? So before even starting to automate a process, you need to look at the process level from an overview kind of, from an overall perspective, and try to cut out the lags within the system. Try to cut out those points in the system which are not adding value.
Yeah. So why should I have numerous half-ended, incomplete, incompetent processes, whereas I can have one end-to-end, robust, flexible, and accurate process?
So you get a chance to streamline your processes, and apart from that, you also get 24/7 availability. So imagine a technology which will not ask you for leave, or which does not take any breaks. How does that sound?
That saves on your coffee as well, right?
Absolutely. So, and last but not the least, RPA is very non-invasive. So it's just going to sit on your technology layer, and you do not need major investments on your software infrastructure. You do not need to restructure your platforms in order for RPA to work. So those are the strategic advantages which RPA will offer. Moving on, if we want to look at how RPA can act as a disruptive technology, so in today's times, businesses are constantly facing the need to increase their bottom line. And as we know, it's not always realistically possible to increase top-line revenue. So how do you improve bottom lines? You need to reduce your costs. And how do you reduce the costs? Through process efficiency.
Right.
And RPA helps you achieve just that. It will help you increase your process efficiency, and it is also flexible to changing market demands.
Exactly. And I can see a form of cost saving in terms of reduced workarounds and reduced reworks, right? So why must you be spending on manpower, money, and time on reworking certain things which can achieve first time right
services? Exactly. And as we already mentioned, there will be minimal interference, or rather no interference at all, to the underlying technology layer. So those are kind of the advantages of RPA. And if we move on, we just want to summarize what the basic objectives of RPA are. So basic tenets such as quality improvement, you get more regulatory compliance. So in view of the new regulations which have come into effect in the UK, say GDPR, organizations can achieve a lot of process accuracy through RPA. RPA is very versatile. It can traverse across applications, and it can also help eliminate civil chair tasks, right? And if you question what civil chair tasks are, basically we look at people within organizations who are just moving from one machine to another. Say they're gathering data from one machine, looking up that data in another machine or in another application, fetching some records, and then collating the entire thing together. So why do we want to have people who are traversing from one system, one application between machines? So those are kind of lags, right, in the system.
Right. So we need to cut down the physical movement of files and have them move more in the virtual space.
And that is where RPA is more versatile, as in it can traverse across technologies. So it is not siloed automation or automation per se within applications, because it can move through applications, right? And absolutely, if you look more into the slide, it helps you achieve best practices within organizations, accelerated business growth. And that is where we would like to introduce the concept of scalability also within RPA. So RPA is completely scalable. So if you want to, it's totally up to you whether you want to deploy one bot to a process or you want to deploy 10 bots to the process. If a process volume is high, you obviously want more people working on it. So instead of people wherein you might face resource constraints, resource training concerns, right? That is where RPA, the bots can be easily reused, because one bot, once the code is done, you can completely reuse it and scale it up.
Exactly. In lines of the best practice, I do notice that since you are already telling the bot what is to be done, there is no deviation in the way the bot does that work. This tendency is generally there when people tend to take up things that, okay, I can do it in this manner, I can also do it in this manner, which might not be the accepted methodology.
So it will perform the task accurately one time, every time.
So quality and compliance, again, as you rightly mentioned, is on the top of an RPA offering.
And moving on, we also derive maximum customer satisfaction and delight, because customers can be constantly engaged, they can be kept updated and informed, and that is what we are seeing in this age of constant. When people have access to so much information, we don't want to be kept waiting for anything, right?
Yeah.
So that's where RPA can be leveraged to a great extent.
And since you mentioned access to information, it is also very essential to keep this information constrained within certain bounds. It is not meant to be leaked out, it is not meant to be distorted or tampered with. So with RPA in place, with the software bot handling that, there is no need for the bot to actually go in and try and derive something additional out of the data.
Absolutely.
I hope you know what I mean, right? It's not that we're shifting some kind of an accusation somewhere, but yes, with RPA, the degree of compliance that we are looking at
data
is
security,
much higher, much higher.
That's also one important point which needs to be noted here. So moving on, would you like to mention some of the quantitative benefits of RPA?
Right, Arun. Since you already spoke about some of the benefits and you very well explained them, I would like to take our audience through some of the numbers that we as JKT's RPA team were able to realize. So for one of our FMCG clients, we were able to achieve up to 50% of cost saving in terms of project operation costs. So this project was an empowerment to this project team who were trying to get some form of testing and monitoring done within their system, and they were looking at around 15 to 20 FTEs doing this work round the clock. With our solution in place, we were able to save up to 0.8 crore INR of project revenue, which got channelized and which got used for something more beneficial and more progressive for that project team. So that is what we are looking to.
And I think this the project that we are looking at actually has reports coming in from different geographies. It's not only...
Exactly so, exactly so. Okay. In terms of customer experience, something very important is the connect that a business has with its customer.
Yeah.
With RPA, when the customers are being serviced on spot, they're not being kept waiting when they have everything at their disposal, the information that they're looking for.
Right.
Why would they want to move on to some other place?
Look at use cases of customer onboarding, right? So if you really want to onboard a customer into your system, you do not need to wait for all the paperwork to be processed by someone.
Exactly.
So as long as you have digital copies of the forms, and so the bot can actually just create that record in your system.
If I have claims, I would really want to have updates on those claims handy and ready for me. I would not want to go back and keep inquiring for it, very frankly. That's where something like an RPA can be very handy for the people who are working on such requests. In terms of scalability, Arun, we were able to achieve great results for one of our FMCG clients, wherein we started humbly. We started with one bot working to automate around 35 monthly reports coming from around 13 different systems. So we are looking at data, huge volumes of data from 13 different systems.
The concept of versatility comes in,
exactly. Right? So with that project as a starter for us, we have now scaled up to 7 bot machines running 365 days for 24 hours in a day with around 350 reports on the automation radar. For this client, we have been able to achieve around 4,000 hours of manual effort monthly.
That sounds major.
That's a major saving,
Moving on.
Streamlining of processes, Arun. Have you seen processes wherein you have been interacting with different systems, with different people, there has been handing over
from
handshake
one team to another, right?
How much time do we actually lose in these handshakes and in these nodes, at these nodes?
Right.
Have you thought about the non-value-added tasks at these nodes?
That is where the lags come in.
Exactly so. Why would I have to have all this coordinated in this joint sets, wherein I can have bot do the whole thing together, save on time, and make it efficient without losing data, without distorting data. So this is what we have done for one of our leading pharma clients, wherein we were able to achieve around 12 reports on time. They didn't have this escalation and reporting mechanism. They were doing everything manually. This is where, through our discovery initiative, so I would be talking little more about our discovery phase and the other phases that we embark upon in our RPA journey with clients. So in the discovery phase, we were able to sensitize the client that yes, you need a process, you need an automation which will actually help you have these facilities in place, reporting and escalation. You would not have to run after it, you would not have to ask for it, everything will be done timely by your virtual assistant. Timely monitoring and greater SLA adherence, I think it's very self-explanatory. We were able to achieve around about 93% of SLA adherence for one of our pharma clients.
Even acknowledgement SLA is a big thing, right?
Exactly
so. You actually need to acknowledge that a ticket has really been created and someone is looking into it.
Exactly.
Even that gives the customer kind of confidence that someone is looking into my concern.
Exactly
right?
so. Just imagine the amount of time, effort, and money that gets invested in any IT project for monitoring and maintenance.
Yeah, I think we were also able to work on a use case for one of our clients in which we did something with user access provisioning and deprovisioning.
Right.
I think that falls
Very
right into this category.
So these are just foods for thought. Technology agnostic, I think, Arun, you've talked about it. There's really no need for me to jump into it anymore unless there are any queries from our audience. Any queries, please feel free to post it.
Okay. So the question, is RPA really the future of outsourcing?
Very interesting one, actually, Arun. So research says that around 60% of revenue coming from IT services is from outsourcing. And out of this 60%, or rather the entire work that an outsourcing agency or team does, 40% of the tasks are doable by bots, are automatable.
Right.
So does the outsourcing industry need to worry? I really don't think so. We are kind of trying to rechannelize your efforts, your time, and your investments towards something more progressive and more productive, wherein we introduce software assistants that are going to take up your routine tasks and your high volume tasks. That's very important. Very high volume tasks are done in a jiffy by a software bot.
And I think one point which could be extracted from this slide is you may not need to automate the entire process, right? So businesses need not worry whether the entire process can be automated through RPA. So there might be some nodes in the process which are very business critical, which are quite multifaceted, which you want to keep under manual control, your own control, and that is absolutely fine. So even if you are automating, say, 60 or 70% of one process, I think you can achieve great benefits even with that kind of a number.
We are saying automate what you can automate.
Right.
If you don't automate, you might get automated.
Okay. So moving on, let's look at some of the general use cases for RPA. So as I think is very clear from our discussion that because of RPA being such a versatile and technology agnostic technology, it finds application in across a lot of business domains.
Right.
So domains ranging from BFSI to healthcare to IT. All of these domains find use for RPA. So look at some use cases. I'm sure some the people in the audience will be able to identify with one or more of use cases from their own organizations. So just to touch upon a couple of use cases from each some domains. So healthcare, you can look at medical bill processing. You can look at medical record entry. BFSI, customer account creation, KYC validation is one area which people might look into. We also have reconciliation within BFS. For insurance, as I think we've already mentioned, claims processing or underwriting services, and IT. So I feel that environment setup, right, within installations and setups, because when you're testing out an application, you sometimes need to refresh the data. You need to set up environments to particular details, and that is where I think RPA bots can be used to create environments within which test code can be executed.
Even if you look at it from a different angle, so right now let's not focus on domains. Let's focus on something as basic as data. Data itself is a use case for RPA. Data entry, data validation, data cleansing, transformation, huge potential for automation.
This use case cuts across domains, right?
Exactly.
That's what I think the point we are trying to make. Moving on, let's have a look at some of JKT's touch points with RPA. So we've in fact automated close to 4,500 hours of manual effort monthly for our FMCG clients. We are looking at automating the billing process for one of the leading biopharma companies. We are also working on a project for automating the order-to-invoice process within SAP.
Right.
So people might say that SAP has its own inbuilt automation, so why RPA? So that is where we need to realize that RPA need not work only within one application. And starting from getting the list of requirements through email, Microsoft Outlook, placing it in Windows Explorer, and then subsequently moving the records from the Excel to SAP, and error handling mechanisms within SAP. So all that can be handled through RPA.
Right.
So that is where the
actually takes me back to the third slide of this discussion, wherein we bucketized automation in different funnels: scripted and inbuilt automation and RPA. Why must you limit your IT capabilities to your IT technology? You should have something more flexible, something that is capable of understanding different systems.
Something which works just like a human.
You really do not want to limit yourselves in terms of automation potential.
Right. And if you want to look at some other achievements, our bots got featured on the Automation Anywhere Bot Show. That's our product partner.
Right.
And we were even nominated for a leading award at a UK Technology Association.
Yeah, this was quite an encouragement for us. It was like a signal that we are headed towards the right path, and I'm sure there would be more to come.
Absolutely. Okay. So one of the RPA stories within JKT. So this is a use case which we developed for one of our real estate clients. So basically, real estate organizations have to deal with multiple vendors and suppliers on a day-to-day basis. So the more the number of partners you have, the more the number of transactions. And these transactions were being done manually. So just imagine having to create purchase requisitions to the order of hundreds per month.
Right.
And that is where the workflow was getting stuck. That is where the things were not progressing. There were delays in the system. So that's what we are trying to automate. We are trying to automate the order-to-invoice process within SAP. And that's where I feel that during this initiative, we actually achieved close to around 66.67% saving in turnaround time.
Right.
So that's huge, I think.
I can imagine in the form in which this huge volume of data was being dealt by in a manual way, and the way in which it was dealt with by a software bot. It would have been so much faster.
Exactly. A lot of effort was being spent by the sourcing team. So yeah, moving on, I think it's time for a demo.
Right. I think our audience has been waiting for a live demo. So just before we start playing this demo, a little crux of what we are trying to achieve with it. This is based on material creation and material entry in SAP. So this is the Automation Anywhere window, the platform where we've done the coding. As you can see, it's pretty simple. You do not need to know too much of a coding, language, etc. You just have to have the basics of it, and you should know the commands that are available within your specific RPA platform.
It's only a drag and drop functionality, right?
Right. Based on this, we have added in some delays so that you can understand it better. Without the delays, it would have been lightning fast, and right now we would just be showing you creation of one material, but this is just for the demonstration's sake.
What is this use case about?
This is creation of materials within SAP. So we have the data available from an email. Basically, the bot goes and reads all this information from an email, keeps it into a temporary file from which it is going to insert the data into SAP, logs into SAP through a secure login. Again, the login credentials are available in the credential vault, so nobody needs to know what is the password. It's done super securely. Then it's going to go ahead and enter the data in the right fields based on the T code that has been supplied. So this is an example that's based out of SAP. Similar examples can be created on different systems.
Okay. So
let's just go ahead. Yep. So as you can see, the bot is trying to access this SAP system. It's going to go ahead and log in. It's fed in the T code and it's feeding in the needful fields for performing this task. And mind you, all this is with the delays. Otherwise, we wouldn't even know that
the real process would run much faster.
Yeah. I think one of the most important thing about automation is email automation. I mean, how can you use this capability to the best of your potential within organizations? There would be need for so much of emailing everywhere. Just imagine a bot sitting there and doing this work for you. What's the Arun?
Absolutely. I feel that's a major area of concern.
Right.
Okay, so I think our demo's just ended. We'll move ahead.
Right.
This brings us to the last slide within our session.
Okay.
Sanjana, care to walk the audience through JKT's USP and the overall RPA maturity levels?
Right, Arun. So our journey is based on a couple of milestones, and these milestones are discovery, calibrate, implement, run, and formulate a center of excellence. With the discovery phase, we tend to help our clients identify, discover processes that are worth automating and from which they are going to reap the best out of their returns on investment. Okay, you just cannot go ahead and automate a process for the sake of automation. You need to see what benefits you're going to achieve through automation. And again, there is no point going and automating a bad process.
Absolutely, and that's where I think the process selection framework, organizations need to first identify which processes they need to automate based on their particular parameters. So we can rate processes.
Right.
We can rate processes based on different organizational objectives and actually help organizations identify the best processes to automate.
Right.
Because there's no use in actually automating a process you don't really need to.
Right, exactly. So something that is really going to boost your operation, something that's really going to add in value and let your people work in a better way.
Absolutely.
Calibrate is to qualify the process, to establish some kind of faith in the way we are going to be handling the process through RPA.
Okay.
So to say the technical and the functional feasibility of our approach. Then we come towards implement, wherein we take care of the security, the compliance, the ethics involved in the way we would, the approach in which we would be doing the work, the backup, the disaster recovery, everything should be in place. So for any IT project, you just don't jump in from one traditional approach to another approach. What you do is you always have some kind of backup plan, some kind of a disaster or failover plan ready. That is true for any project, needless to say for RPA. So all that is done. An organizational change management format has to be in place. So all this taken care in the implement phase. Next comes the run phase, which is actually the project phase, wherein the design is consolidated, the architecture is finalized, the infrastructure is made ready, the development of the coding happens, the testing happens, and then once ratified, it goes into the deployment phase.
And that is where I think you also realize the ROIs, right? You can actually get the actual ROI realized.
Exactly. So that's the starting point from where you start realizing how this is making a difference. We do not say that automation will bring in drastic change in the way you perceive your operations. Yeah. It's a gradual process.
Absolutely. We encourage organizations to take baby steps towards automation, start small, but think big.
Right.
And finally, I think the last stage will be the creation of a center of excellence, which is more in line with creating an environment of automation, a sense and awareness of the benefits of RPA within your organization, so that even if you start your RPA journey within a particular business area, that those benefits and the idea of the advantages RPA brings about is spread across functional domains and functional
teams. Spreading the ethos of automation.
Yeah, having governance frameworks.
From different departments, across different departments.
And that is where you actually leverage the full benefits.
Exactly. That's how people come around to accept such new disruptive technologies per se, quote unquote.
Okay.
So our journey so far, we started with unorganized data. We did testing on it. We verified whether there is some kind of benefit in going ahead with
scope for automation.
Yeah, exactly. Then we went to process level automation, where we looked at small discrete processes, how we could make them better, how they could bring in some kind of efficiency in the way you do the work. Then comes amalgamation of different functional units, cross-functional integrations, how automation at a different function can interact with automation in a different function and add some value to both. Then comes a larger scope of it, the enterprise-wide integration, something that we spoke about just a while back. Self-learning, cognitive learning. How do you actually make your bot sustainable? How does your bot learn from new instances? How does your bot cope up with different instances? How do you teach the bot again? So that comes as a part of learning and training.
This is like a higher level of maturity, right?
Exactly. And then finally, your digital workforce or your digital assistant is ready, is at your beck and call. In fact, not even at your beck and call. It's there in the office when you are at home.
Okay. I think so. This brings us to the end of this session. We'll open the floor for some question and answer.
Let's get on with some question and answer.
Okay. So,
Arun, one second. I think there's a question coming in from one of our audience members. What challenges do you foresee in RPA adoption?
To answer this question, so I feel that there's a huge misconception in the industry that RPA would lead to elimination of jobs. So instead, I would say that RPA is an enabler wherein you actually help retain employees. I mean, your employee is working on creating just reports 4 hours per day. Who wants to deal with a huge amount of a bulky Excel which can crash whenever, and you need to restart the entire process again? You need to look at formulas, keep track of all the formulas and connections within multiple Excels. Who wants to look at that? So actually, you're helping relieve your employees of some boring tasks. Frankly speaking,
Arun, you can calculate. Then why do you have a calculator?
Absolutely. So it will help retain your employees, reduce attrition, and also attract better workforce for your organization.
Right. There's another question coming in. It says, which tools to use to create and design RPA? So there are a couple of platforms available in the market, Automation Anywhere being one of the market leaders. Apart from that, you have Blue Prism, UiPath, Kofax, something running on Pega. So you can have these tools. There are trial versions of these tools available for a practice, a trial. And based on the requirement of your organization, you can choose what is best suited for you.
Absolutely. Okay, so another one, it says, what's the usual implementation time frame for an RPA project?
That's actually a very interesting question, Arun. You just don't jump into a project with RPA and expect it to be delivered fast.
Yeah.
You are actually moving
It's a completely new thing you're doing, right?
If you're a first-time user of RPA, if you're going into this concept for the first time, we advise that you take some time, spend some quality time in the discovery,
and
in the calibrate phase, do end-to-end testing, ensure that all your use cases are covered, all your scenarios are covered, and there aren't any surprises, and your backup and DR plans are there. So a backup and a DR, I reiterate, is a must for any IT project.
I think organizations should be very open-minded when they are approaching RPA. So we should not set, obviously there will be timelines to a project, but we also need to be very aware of the fact that it's going to be a very iterative learning experience. And RPA, as it lies within the conjunction of business and IT, complete collaboration between these two facets of an organization actually leads to the successful delivery of a project, right?
Right.
But say for a medium complexity process, how much time do you think it takes?
Well, it's hard to estimate, and I wouldn't want to estimate it given the number of technologies involved. Say if we were going for a very simplistic approach, and say if you had not more than 3 different applications on which you had to do the work, and it was pretty straightforward, not much of an if and else.
Yeah, we do not have untoward circumstances. Then
around 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks.
Okay.
But again, it depends on the volume of data.
It depends on the RPA maturity of an organization.
The maturity of the processes that you're looking at, the kind of processes that you're looking at, and what is the process going to impact.
Okay. So I think we have time for one final question.
So this question says, what are the differences between structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data? Okay. Structured data is data which comes in a certain format.
Say within like an Excel.
Say suppose your IT return. The document that you send in for your IT return, that's structured data. Because if I was a bot, then as a bot I would have known, okay, this is my PAN number, this is my name, this is the field from where I need to pick up the return, whatever, etc. I would know that these are the places that I need to look for. These are the identifiers. Semi-structured data is something that has a level of structuring available and a part of uncertainty available in the same instead. Say suppose I was looking for an invoice which had some form of signature. Okay, so you picking up the invoice number, some values, etc., and then you had to pick up a signature of a person. If it is a different signature, say suppose I'm supposed to sign but you have signed instead, then that I classify as unstructured, unclassified, and unidentified data. Unstructured data is something that you cannot guarantee a structure of. Frankly, you don't know in what format it's going to come. You don't know what would be the text alignment. You don't know where the data will be placed. You don't know what would be the amount of data in that. So depending on that, automation works. Basic scripted automation, RPA, may not be the right thing if your data is not structured. Okay?
Fine. I guess we are nearing the end of the session.
So just wanted to thank everybody. Wanted to thank you, Arun. It was a very good discussion. And I hope we were able to answer most of your queries. I think there are some other queries pouring in as well, but so sorry we are running short of time. You may post these queries at marketing@jktech.com.
Right.
You may contact us through our website. You can also reach us out on our LinkedIn profile.
Looking forward to hearing back from you guys, and we hope it was as much fun hearing this session as it was in delivering.
Yes.
And okay, have a lovely evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Would like to see you again. Bye-bye.